Here's something that came up over the weekend. I was walking around the expo and somebody came up to me in Bailey and started talking to us and was like, they were so excited. They were talking about this question they had asked and they brought up a good point and I wanted to talk about it. They were like, we have these channels at these events and they bring a being into a person to talk to that person. But the people who are asking questions aren't asking big questions, aren't asking questions for the collective. They're asking are questions for themselves, questions for how do I better my life? How do I fix this? How do I heal this? How do I do this? How do I is the key. Most of the questions are how do I type of thing. What can I, very I centric. And people often ask me, like, how do you build relationships with these beings? And they come to me and I do spirit art readings and I draw the beings, I channel the messages. I have beings come to me all the time, new beings to create friendships. And they're like, they ask me questions that I don't think to ask these beings. And they go, why don't you ask those? I'm like, because we're friends. We have a conversation where it's not about me. It's not about me. I built a friendship with them. One of the things we have to understand when we're working with these other beings is if you approach them from a standpoint of what can you get out of it, you're not going to create friendships. A lot of them aren't here to stroke the ego, as Kalamesh says. He's very clear. The Arcturian is very clear. We are not here to stroke your ego. We are not here to just be giving you information to help you. We're here to do work together. And that means you're going to have to work too with them. It's not just a give, it's a give and take. And that it's a and that's of all relationships. Friendships, true friendships are give and take. Balance on each side. They are these relationships where, you know, you're not just like, hey, I need help. Hey, can you come over? I need this. I need that. All me. And we've all experienced those friendships, and they're terrible friendships. It takes us a long time sometimes to get away from those friendships, but they can be terrible friendships. Not can be, they're way out of balance. What is a balanced friendship? It's one where you're like, hey, what's the most beautiful thing you've done today? What's the most beautiful thing you've experienced? Tell me about your culture. Tell me about your backstory, your background. You know, I went to New York and I had this beautiful conversation with somebody I met on Instagram who I consider family, consider a sister now. And her and I talk every once in a while, not often, but it's one of those friendships. Like when we talk, it's very interesting and it's a friendship that holds. And when I sat down with her, I wasn't like sitting there like just talking about myself. I was asking. She comes from a different culture, and I'm using this example because it's an example that applies to galactics. She has a different culture. She's my age. She comes from Brazil, I think, if I remember right, and grew up at the same time I did. I grew up in an age without cell phones, in an age without high speed computers, high speed internet. We had dial up. When I got to high school, we were on dial up, and it was a different type of experience back then compared to what kids experience today. But what I found interesting was her experience and how it related to mine because it was completely different because technology wasn't like the US was getting technology and a lot of places didn't have any technology. So I was asking about her experience. We were building a friendship, talking about memories, talking about experience. We weren't like, "Hey, how can you help me with this? Hey, how can I do this? Hey, how can XYZ?" Like I get it. Some channels are meant to be teachers and they're answering the questions to teach. That's I do that too. You know, you can ask me anything like that. That's not to dismiss that. We're here to be of service. But the thing is, where are the questions people want to know about these civilizations and stuff, and they're starting to get more curious. But then people don't ask the questions about that. You know, most of the time, I'd say 99% of the time that I talk to people, it's how can I? It's not, what about you? What's your experience? You know, what's your experience with food on your world and how does it help you vibrationally? What's your experience that is the most beautiful thing you've experienced in your life on your planet? What's your experience with family on your world? What's it like? What's your experience with enjoyment and entertainment on your world? What do you do? Think about those questions for a second. How do you build a friendship? You don't talk about yourself. You talk about the other person and invite them to talk about themselves while relating to them and sharing with each other. But there's this thing as people wake that it's always like, how can I do this? What do I need to do next? What do I do to do this? I. Some of that's ego and some of that's just not knowing how to create a friendship. And they're like, how do I create a friendship? Like my friend Wasp, who's a mantid, who I can feel. He's so ever present with me right now. He was in China this weekend, and there's a strong feeling that I might see him soon. And he's excited, and I'm excited. We don't ask each other, how can we help the other one? We are true friends. He's a galactic, I'm here. We are true friends. When we see each other, it's just about experiencing each other and understanding each other and having that friendship. I'm going to leave it there. Think about that when you're trying to communicate and experience other beings. Create a friendship. Don't create an I. Love you all. Grateful for each and every one of you.